What is your name, please?
My name is Bob Stone.
My name is Bob Stone. My name is Bob Stone.
Only one of these men is the real Bob Stone. The other two are imposters and will try to fool this panel. Tom Poston, Peggy Cass, Orson Bean, and Kitty Carlisle. On to Tell the Truth with your host, Bud Collier.
Thank you very much, and welcome once again to Tell the Truth. Good evening, panel.
Good evening, Bob.
Good evening, man. Everybody well and happy this evening?
Yeah.
We're brought to you this evening by Woolite, the cold water wash that safely soaks sweaters clean in minutes without stretching, without shrinking. All right, I know you're anxious to get to the first story, so open up your envelope and follow along with your copy as I read from mine. I, Bob Stone, make a good living because there are so many bad golfers. My brother and I started our business in hip boots, waders, and swim trunks, retrieving golf balls from the lakes and water hazards on golf courses throughout the country. We were attacked by snakes, turtles, muskrats, and once even by an alligator. Nevertheless, that first year we retrieved 100,000 balls. Last year, our company retrieved, reconditioned, and resold over 2.5 million. There is still room for expansion, however, since each year American duffers fill our golf course ponds and streams with 15 million golf balls. Signed, Bob Stone. Panel, these three gentlemen all claim to be Bob Stone, tracer of lost golf balls. Let's start the questioning with Peggy Cass. Peggy?
Thank you, Bud. Tell me, number 2, is yours the only company that does this?
No, there are about 5 in the United States.
Thank you. Number 3, how many people do you employ?
About 12.
12? Boy, they must work a lot, 100,000 golf balls. Tell me, number 1, what is Batala?
That's the covering on the golf ball.
Thank you. Number 2, have you ever worked Pebble Beach?
Yes.
Number 3, how do you get them out of the ocean? I saw Arnold Palmer was in terrible trouble there once. I mean, can you get them out from the waves?
I wouldn't know.
You wouldn't know? Then you don't work Pebble Beach, I take it.
No, I don't.
See, that's what they always do. And number 1, what is the largest water hazard of any golf course that you've worked? Which
The
course?
largest? Oh, there's some lakes down in Texas that are pretty big. I don't know.
Thank you.
Orson Bean.
Number 3, do you pay a golf course for the privilege of diving in its water pools there?
Some courses.
Some you can go in and just pick as many as you can eat, or what's in it for them other than a clean pool?
Well, you buy the lake.
I see. Number 2, do you use any snorkel equipment when you do this diving?
Yes, at times. Most of the pools are shallow, though.
They are shallow, and you can just go and scoop
It
them
varies,
up.
though, but most of them are.
Number 1, how do you retread a golf ball? Do you put your own little thing
Well, we
on
recondition them. We don't retread them.
it? Don't you? How do you do that, number 1?
Clean them. First we grade them, we wash them.
And you sell
Paint
them
'em up
with the
sometime.
other people's trademarks still on them?
Oh, yes.
Number 2, you say you were attacked by a turtle, a big fella like you. Were you scared? Or?
I wasn't scared, but it hurt a bit when he bit.
Kitty Carlisle.
It says here that you, number 1, it says here that you've sold how many golf balls? 100,000? How much would that come to?
Sold more than that, 2.5 million.
2.5 million, that's right. How much would that come to?
Average out about, I don't want to give my competitors too much information, about 10 cents a piece.
10 cents, that's a very good business. Number 2, are you a golfer?
Of sorts.
What happens when you lose your own balls?
I go in after them.
Number 3, what is the composition of a golf ball?
Well, that I've misunderstood. I don't...
You don't know?
No.
Number 2, does the Creek Club have any water hazards?
The Creek Club?
Yes.
Don't know the club.
Oh. Number 1, do you know any club around New York that has a lot of water hazards?
I don't work in New York.
Tom Poston.
Number 3, you seem to have a lot of color in your face. Where do you mostly do your work?
It'll be in the southern part, the western part.
Southern and Western. Number 2, do you ever resell a golf ball without reconditioning it?
Sometimes, yes.
If they're so
if
good?
it's in good, clean condition.
Thank you. Number 1, what kind of subcontract do you arrange for your recovering of golf balls that are recoverable?
We don't really recover them. It wouldn't be worth what you get for them to recover them.
You agree with that, number 3?
Yes, I do.
What is gutta percha, number 3?
I misunderstood you.
Gutta percha.
What is gutta percha?
I don't know.
You know number 2?
No, I don't, unless it's the center of the ball.
Number 1, do you know what gutta percha is? Or?
No, sir.
That's what golf balls used to be made out of.
What teeth are filled with temporarily. All right, that's all the time we have. It's time for you to mark your ballots. So mark them at once, panel, without consultation. Just vote now, if you will, please, without change, for number 1, number 2, or number 3. A team of challengers will receive $250 for every incorrect vote. All ballots marked?
I finally
Well, Tom, for whom did you vote?
I finally voted for 3. There was something about the way he answered a question that I didn't care for, but I thought he had the best of the other answers. So.
Peggy.
Well, I just discovered Batala today. I thought it was the inside of the golf ball, but just even if you knew the word, I voted for number 1. It had something to do with golf balls.
Orson Bean.
Batala is a gummy substance taken from a South American tree, bitter in taste, used for the inside of a golf ball. That rules out 1. I voted for number 3 because he has the taciturn look of a man who spends a lot of time underwater.
Kitty Carlisle.
I
Which
didn't
one do you
know
think it
about Batala. I'm behind you all, so I voted for number 1. I thought when he said it would be not a good business to reconstruct the golf balls, I thought he knew what he was talking about.
Well, that evenly divides it between 1 and 3. 2 for number 1, 2 for number 3. All right, let's find out now which one of these 3 gentlemen, in truth, is the tracer of lost golf balls. Will the real Bob Stone please stand up? Thank you, sir, very much. It hurts me a little to realize how much I contribute to your income every year. Number 1, what is your real name and what do you really do, sir?
I'm Harry Paget, and I'm a lieutenant commander of the United States Navy.
Thank you, sir. Number 2, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Jim McCormick. I'm president of Holt Hoser Mills. We make ladies' stockings.
Well, the score tells us in checking it there were 2 incorrect votes, and those are the ones in which you are most interested. That's twice $250. There were 2 of them, and that makes $500, gentlemen, that you take away from us. On your way out, of course, you'll receive a fine gift package from all the wonderful products made by the makers of Woolite. And we thank you for sharing this evening with us. Hope you enjoyed it, too, as much as we did. Good night, and God bless you. Now let's meet our next team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Jean Bair. My name is Jean Bair.
My name is Jean Bair.
Will you follow with your copies as I read mine, panel? I, Jean Bair, am the author of Follow Me, a guidebook for the woman traveling alone. I am an authority on travel and the single girl because I have made 16 trips abroad, all of them by myself. Naturally, my book includes chapters on transportation, accommodations, and wardrobe. But it lays special stress on how and where to meet eligible and interesting men, and how to duck those who are ineligible and uninteresting. If you are a single woman of any age and are contemplating a trip abroad, my advice is leave your best girlfriend back home and just go. Signed, Jean Bair. These 3 ladies all claim to be Jean Bair. Let's start this cross-examination with Orson Bean. Orson?
All right, number 1, Miss Bair, number 1. What is your advice to a young lady if she's walking down the Via Veneto in Rome and she is pinched by one of the locals.
There's really not much that you can do about it. I mean, try to ignore it and walk a little faster.
Number 3, do you agree that it should be ignored?
Well, I think it depends on the gentleman.
Number 3 again, is it thought of as an insult?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear
Is it thought of as an insult?
Oh, no, I think it might be more insulting if he didn't, but perhaps the best thing to do would be to walk on.
Ah, bless you, dear. Number 2, how can you tell if the fellow is trying to pick you up? Suppose you were on the beach, say the Lido, or say in the south of France, at the beach, and a fellow was trying to pick you up. You're a girl alone. How can you tell if he's rich if he's only wearing a bathing suit?
Well, maybe a few leading questions, but I think you have to wait till later.
I see.
I'd make later arrangements.
Kitty Carlisle.
Later.
Jean Bair, whoever you are, where do I get your book? Number 1, where did you have the best time?
In Italy.
Uh-huh.
Yes.
Number 2, is it permissible to take a man to dinner yourself if you're a single girl alone to pay for the meal?
No, not really.
That doesn't, no, even though you are lonely?
Well, if you might arrange for it at your hotel, but it's better to do it the other way.
Number 3, how did you get into this business of 16 trips abroad alone?
I wanted to travel.
And it was all right?
Yes.
Number 1, why is it best to leave your girlfriend at home?
Oh, he travels fastest who travels alone, for one thing, and you don't have to be dependent on others' plans. You're completely free.
Tom Poston.
Thank you. Number 2, have you written any other books?
No.
This is your
First book.
Who's your publisher, number 2?
Macmillan.
Thank you. Number 1, where would one go dancing in Europe? Say in Italy, if you were in Italy and you wanted to dance, how would you go about getting?
You mean alone? No, I'm sorry.
Suppose you wanted to pick up some... Oh, I'm sorry. Suppose you wanted to meet an eligible and interesting man who was a good dancer because you like to dance. Where would you...
Oh, well, you'd go to a discotheque or you'd go to a nightclub just as you would in New York.
Do you agree with that, number 3? Where do they dance in Europe?
No, I think I might do it a bit differently. I might try to find him in the morning so he'd ask me to go dancing at night.
Number 2, do they...
Peggy Cass.
Number 3, say I was in Rome. Where would be the best place to meet some nice guys?
Well,
you know, might as well put this to use.
You could have your coffee at Doney's in the morning.
But, I mean,
that
you can't just wink around the table, can you? I mean, my mother would kill me.
Leave your mother home.
You could be sitting there.
I mean, what do you do, like spill a coffee and say, oh, gee whiz, I'm so sorry.
No, I think if you just sit there and look approachable, that perhaps somebody would approach you. And then you can visit it.
Boy, I can't wait to make the trip. Listen, number 1, what do you think of a ski resort? It's a good place to meet fellas.
Excellent. Just
Yeah.
marvelous.
And
That's all the time we have, so write down your little ideas in the form of your ballot, if you will, please, by voting. Vote at once, without any further questions, and without change, and without consultation. Simply vote for number 1, or vote for number 2, or vote for number 3. All ballots marked. All right. Tom, for whom did you vote this time?
I voted for number 2. We didn't talk much about going to church, but she looked like she could answer all those questions better than the others.
Peggy Cass.
well, I voted for number 3. See, I'm too scared to go to a discotheque all by myself the way number 1 would, but I can see meeting a guy over coffee and putting on my dancing shoes by that evening. So I voted for 3.
Orson B.
I voted for number 1. She's a charming young woman, and if she said follow me, I'm sure she would be pursued by a horde of eligible men.
Kitty.
I voted for number 1 because when Bud said, leave your mother home, she applauded. And I think she knew what she was talking about.
Well, that divvies it up. Broadly as it can be. When 4 are voting for 3, there were 2 for number 1, 1 for number 2, 1 for number 3. Let's go with that. And find out now which one of these 3 ladies is in truth Jean Bair. Will the real Jean Bair please stand up? Could I see your approachable look? I won't put you on that way. Number one, what is your real name and what do you really do?
My name is Mary Gleason, and I'm a secretary for Studio Music Company.
Thank you. And number two, what is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Mary John, and I'm director of Ballard School, Central Branch YWCA.
Well, I'm sure I don't have to tell you about what the score is. You probably already secretly spent it. But there were 3 incorrect votes, and that's easily divided because 3 times $250 is $750. Ladies, did you take along? On your way out, you'll also receive a gift package of all the fine products from the makers of Woolite. We thank you for gracing our show. Good night, and God bless you. Right now, let's take time out for a brief film. Back in a minute. Our third team of challengers.
What is your name, please?
My name is Jess Gorkin.
My name is Jess Gorkin. My name is Jess Gorkin.
Will you read your copies, panel, as I read mine? I, Jess Gorkin, am the editor of the Sunday newspaper supplement Parade. In 1960, I wrote an open letter to President Eisenhower and Russian Premier Khrushchev suggesting the establishment of an emergency communications link between the United States and the Soviet Union to prevent accidental war. It became the first of my 7 articles on the subject. The Russians favored the idea, but our State Department was rather cool to it. The Cuban Missile Crisis brought matters to a head. During those perilous days, it took as long as 18 hours for an exchange of messages between President Kennedy and Premier Khrushchev. Today, with a direct, open line in round-the-clock service between the Kremlin and the Pentagon, such messages can be relayed instantaneously. In a letter, President Kennedy credits me with being the originator of the idea of the now famous hotline. Signed, Jess Gorkin. One all claim to be, as you heard, Jess Gorkin. We'll start this time, if we may, with Tom Poston. Tom?
Thank you. I'm going to start at number 3. Do you know Clayton Felker?
Yes, I do.
What does he do? Do you know number 3?
He's a magazine editor.
Magazine?
Editor.
Thank you. Number 2, I just want to speak for the kids that might be interested. Where do you hire your reporters? How do you come about getting the reporters that work for you on your supplement?
We have staff men, primarily.
How do you hire them? How do you select them in the first place?
Well, they may have worked on a newspaper or on another magazine, or they may be fresh out of college, depending on the job.
Thank you. Number 1, Mr. Gorkin, where'd you get this idea for the hotline between Moscow and Washington?
Well, back in December of '59, when things were pretty blue and there were a lot of missiles coming up ahead of the military equipment, I talked with our man in Washington. We thought it was pretty blue. Most anything could be happening to the world if a mistake were made by accident. We simply said, why let them make a mistake? Have a line.
Peggy Cass.
Number 3, could you tell me why our State Department was cool to the hotline?
Well, a number of reasons, I guess. One was the fact they didn't think of themselves. And another was perhaps they were afraid the president would work behind their back.
Would work behind their back.
With the Russians.
Number 2, did the Russians, this was published in an American newspaper, did the Russians acknowledge this before we did? I mean, did you say the Russians looked upon it favorably? How did you know the Russians wanted to do it?
They printed it in their papers.
I mean, they picked it up from your article.
That's right.
I see. Number 1, is somebody always standing by on either end of that phone? I mean, after all, Khrushchev and Johnson could be on it all the time, or whoever the new guy is. Were they like operators there, right, beside the phone?
Always.
Number 3, why did it take 18 hours to call Moscow? You can get Rome in 2 minutes.
You get pinched in 1.
If you're lucky.
It was a matter of a lot of protocol that had to be gone through, and there had to be translations, and the statements had to be drafted, and then they'd have to be translated and undrafted, so forth.
Orson B.
Number 2, to follow up Peggy's question, who is the new guy in Russia?
Kosygin and Brezhnev.
And number 2, again, how often is the hotline tested?
It's tested every day.
Number 3, do you know what the Americans say on their side to the Russians?
There's no format. Sometimes I understand they send box scores.
Number one, did the President... What did you say, number three?
Excuse me, Mrs. Cass was saying... It was looking inquiringly. It was baseball box scores.
Yes. Number one, did President Kennedy call you at any time to discuss the hotline with you?
I called him to discuss it.
Oh, that's class.
And to keep it alive.
Number two, who's Charlie Rice?
Charlie Redis?
Rice. Did you say
Rice.
Redis or
Charlie Rice.
Rice. Charlie Rice.
He's a writer.
All right. Number three, do you know who he is?
No, I don't.
Number three, do you know, is there a Sunday supplement with Pravda?
Not as far as I know.
Number...
Kitty Carlisle.
Number one, what is the color of this telephone? Are you allowed to say?
It is called red line sometimes.
Is it what?
The instrument itself, I do not know. That
Number two, do you know exactly where it is?
Where, here or in...
No, in the White House.
It's not in the White House. It's in the Pentagon.
Oh, I see. Oh, I didn't know that. Number three, who is Turner Catledge?
He is the managing editor of the New York Times.
Number one, who is Paul Schoenstein?
I haven't the faintest idea.
Do you know number two?
He works on the Journal American, I believe.
Thank you. Number three, have you seen this telephone?
No, I have not.
You don't know what the color is either?
It's not a telephone. It's a teletype.
Number one, sometimes safeguards defeat themselves. Is it not possible that someone could pick up this instrument by mistake and give the wrong message, which would be worse than trying to get through to Moscow in 18 hours?
Only the President of the United States may use it.
How does he get there?
That's all the time.
He's in a hurry. It'll take him a long time to get to the
So
Pentagon.
mark your ballots without consultation, please. Just simply vote. Vote at once, without change, and vote for number one, number two, or number three. All ballots are not marked yet. No, I can see that you know.
Oh, it's too awful.
All but one. And there it goes. All right. Tom, for whom did you vote?
I voted for you, Bud, because... I just voted for number two because he really answered those questions very forthrightly. However, number three knew all the answers, and number one is the right one.
Peggy, which one do you think it is?
Well, number one said that only the president could use it, but I can't imagine he goes over to the Pentagon every morning and reads baseball scores into the hotline. So I voted for number three.
Orson Bean.
It was number three that said it was baseball
No,
scores.
but he's the one who said that only the president said them.
Tune in tomorrow, friends, and find out. I voted for number three. He said it was a teletype, and number one said what color the phone was. I think it is a teletype. Maybe it isn't.
Kitty.
I voted for number three. Number one gave very good answers, but he didn't know who Paul Schoenstein is, and I think he would have known if he'd been the right one from the Journal. And number three did give all the right answers, and I think he made a mistake because he didn't mean that he's going to have to run to the Pentagon. He just meant that somebody's there every day to test it. I think.
All right. There we have it.
Let's maintain unity here on the panel.
One vote for number two, three votes for number three. Let's find out now which one of these gentlemen, in truth, is Jess Gorkin. Will the real Jess Gorkin please stand up? Oh, my. Incidentally, Jess's story is part of a fascinating book called I Can Tell It Now, which contains stories behind the great news events of the past 25 years, all told by members of the Overseas Press Club of America. Fascinating book. Jess, is this true that only the president may use it for an emergency call? I suppose that's what that means.
Well, the president would be in touch with the machine, and he has a board on his desk which he can punch and get the line directly.
Is it a phone or a...
It's a teletype.
It's a teletype. Number one, what is your real name, sir, and what do you really do?
My name is Gene Towler. I'm a marketing consultant.
And number three, you got most of the votes. What is your real name and what do you do?
My name is Nathan Turkheimer, and I represent New York Airways helicopter service.
Well, the scores in our last round, gentlemen, proves you did well, too. There were three incorrect at $250 each for a total of $750 for the second time tonight. And, of course, when you weigh out, you'll also be given a gift package containing all of the fine products from the makers of Woolite. We thank you, gentlemen, for sharing this evening with us. Hope you'll always look back on it as a happy one. Goodbye, and God bless you. Time for tonight. Good night to your panel, and I thank you for this night.
Good night, Bud.
Good night, Bud.
Good night to all of you. Good night for Woolite. Don't forget to join us the same time next week, and of course, I'll see you tomorrow afternoon on the daytime show. But in the meantime, don't you forget to tell the truth. Bye.
To Tell the Truth is a Mark Goodson, Bill Trotman production. To Tell the Truth has been brought to you tonight by Anacin, a headache tablet to relieve pain, to relax tension, calm nerves. Anacin. This is Johnny Olson speaking for To Tell the Truth, the program recorder.